Uh, when the thing that was supposed to make Hillary the big winner that didn't happen was the suburban women were supposed to be so pissed at Trump that they were going to vote for Hillary, and they didn't. The majority of the suburban women, the wealthier women, the educated women,
Yes.
ended up going with Trump. The Republican women.
Well, you could call them Republican, but that's what people are saying, that they are Trump women, who used to be Obama women. I mean, this is kind of
Really?
interesting
Is it?
parsing of all the electorate.
And I said to you that I was pleased because I'm representing the women
Yes.
here in terms of Trump, but I'm also representing the minorities. And
Right.
let me just tell you that we came away from this election very pleased, although we did not get the person who we wanted for the White House. Hillary did not win, but I feel good that we voted for her.
Right, but less, and it's just to be expected, but less of the minorities voted for Hillary than voted for Barack. And
Yes.
it's to be expected,
Yes.
but had they voted in the same numbers, even though there are more now than were 8 years ago, but if they voted in the same numbers, particularly in Michigan and Pennsylvania, then the result would have been different.
Now, I understand that only 8% of the minorities voted for Trump.
Right. Okay.
Yes, but that's a big number when you look at the overall. But I echo your sentiment that I am also pleased that the number one electioneering is over. Number two, that the way the election was performed is the way it is. I'm pleased that it was done peacefully, largely. And the next thing why I am pleased also is that this kind of shows that we are a democracy. We may not be pleased with what we see, the outcome, but as a democracy, we have chosen democracy. So we should really value that we have a person who has been voted in, and we should, in fact, see that we give him a chance. That's what I see.
Yeah.
But in contrast, I mean, I was in China a few months
wait a
ago,
minute.
and I know that
We have
it's not. That's a different system.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm pleased about. That's
we have a
democracy.
person that was voted in of the people that were casting votes, got fewer votes. That's wrong.
Yes, but that is the system we got.
No,
Yeah,
it is
that-
the system.
but that's
we
the
got.
system we
It's
got.
the system that we have now.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
not the system as constructed by the Constitution.
Actually, that's not true.
That is
That
the way.
is
That's the
absolutely not true.
electoral
It was-
college.
the Electoral College
College
was
is
put
set up.
together
My,
for several purposes. One, they didn't want the big states, New York and Pennsylvania, to dominate everybody else because there were 13, a lot of them were small. So they had a compromise. They said, okay, what we'll do is we'll set up a system, the Senate is set up exactly the same way, where all the states are given an opportunity to have a voice. So today, Wyoming, with
Three, I think.
Three.
They have
three, even though they've got maybe 1 million people or some very small number, their voters,
395,000.
okay,
Oh,
their
okay.
voters have a much bigger say in government deliberately, so that you would include them. The popular vote is represented in a sense by the House of Representatives, which is done purely by population. So that was deliberate. Then the Electoral College was going to be an additional thing where you elect wise statesmen who consider the various candidates and come up with a vote based on their conscience and their experience.
Yes. You've said it exactly right. And then
Yeah.
it was changed from the statesmen getting together to vote to a winner take all by state.
or
No,
Not necessarily, but yes.
Because there were a bunch of people. The two people running for president, or the n number of people running for president, were not on the ballot. They were not on the ballot. Only the electors were on the ballot, and the top electors would then go and choose. So the system we have now is, by the popular vote, you either get one slate of electors or another slate of electors. So you don't get an even distribution of electors. Or, not an even, not necessarily even, but and not everybody could have voted. So it's not by the way the Constitution was originally set up. Now it has been changed over time to be what we have now.
Right.
But it is not what the Constitution initially
Well, the
set up.
Constitution said that the state legislatures would choose the
They-
electors.
They provide the basic
So-
framework.
Okay, so the Constitution is a living document that can change at any time.
Well, that is
No, it can only change in one direction. It can't change in any other direction because the originalists won't let it.
I mean, that's the thing. That's the whole idea. Is the whole problem is that some people consider Constitution as a living document and dynamic. Other people say no, it is not a living document. It is the way it is, and do not interpret it. Yes, I like that. Do not interpret the way it is said. That's the way it is. Now that's that. But the thing is, we know that we have amendments.
but
those are also
No,
considered
no,
sacred.
the way it's said is the way I think it says
Right.
it. And you can't disagree with me.
Yeah.
Right. Scalia,
that's-
the ultimate originalist,
Yes.
said that corporations are people and have a right to speak, and money is equivalent of free speech, and you can spend whatever you want in the same way as you can talk whatever you want.
So where is that?
Now,
I'll show you the decision, the original decision that decided that was the original interpretation.
And he also then said, actually, one of his interviews is, "Get on with it."
Yeah.
yes, now
It
that
is what it is, 'cause that's
now
what I
we
said.
have elected
Yes.
a president. Have you all given any thoughts to how we can get on with it for the next 4 years?
That's what I'd like to talk about tonight.
Okay.
We now have a president. He is in the process of choosing the people who are going to administer the bureaucracy. What do we think is going to happen? I mean, in real terms, it's probably not going to be the flood. Probably.
Well, number one is that you have, as I said earlier, we have to give him a chance. And in that, what I mean is, he has to place people in positions who can run the government. Now the question then comes up: who are the people who are going to be placed in those positions? He's not going to call one of us. He's going to call people who he knows. And who are the people he knows? The people his family. Those are the people who placed him there. Those are the people he knows, and he relies on those. And he is already populating his so-called circle by those individuals who have placed him there, and that is expected. And that's what has been happening all the time. And at the same time, I would also expect positions, for example, Secretary of Defense, you have Secretary of State. Those positions should have individuals who have some kind of a notion what is going on, rather than some naive person put in there, and we will have a big mess.
Well, the problem more of the naive person is they realize, or hopefully realize, they don't know what's going on, so they rely on the unelected people who are already there to say, well, this is how it's done and why, or this is how it should be done.
The unelected people, though, are people several months ago were going after Trump, and the behavior that they displayed, they disliked him. They brought out, these were Republicans.
Yeah,
they brought out all the issues that would make him a poor president. Now these are the same people that are going to the White House to administer. Now Trump also went after these people. So I don't know whether they were entirely trust each other. They
Well,
may do the job, but I'm not
the,
sure.
The criteria right now for being part of the chosen group is your loyalty to Trump, not competence. And that's what the
Yes.
people who are choosing them say. If you're not loyal to Trump, goodbye.
Yes.
It's not has nothing to do with your background. What Bob I think was talking about the unelected people is there are
Bureaucracy.
thousands of federal employees that are they're just simply going to be there no matter who the president is, and fortunately they know what they're doing, and for the most part the government will run. If you choose people that are in charge of particular branches of government who violently disagree with the opinion of many people, like for instance, the Department of Energy is going to be headed by a guy from the oil industry. We don't know because he hasn't said it, but one of the on the news tonight there was one of his top candidates for defense secretary was sitting next to Putin at a big dinner for Russian TV.
You mean that general?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
By the way, he
Forgot
was
his name.
paid a fair amount of
Yes.
money, which is okay for him, but not for Hillary. But I digress.
Well, no, I'm not talking about Giuliani. I'm talking about the
No, no,
general.
no,
Because
no.
Giuliani was paid a bunch of money for speaking also. But yeah, so and having the guy that was in charge of Breitbart in as an advisor, he's
Bannon.
yeah.
Yeah. His job is overall strategy, which
He's a very bright person, but his if I happen to disagree with the way he thinks, it doesn't matter whether he's bright or not. He's on the wrong track from my point of view.
Yes, but at the same time, I look at it in a different way. That is, you look at the population distribution. You have a bell curve, and then you have outliers. So does that mean Trump should throw away the outliers, or should he include everybody? So that may be an argument. That's what the argument could be, that he is including him. And number one, because he's an outlier. Number two, actually, it's Bannon who placed Trump in there. So he owes him something. And at the same time, although he has an extremist view, does that mean he should be just thrown away because of that?
In selecting all these different people and bringing them so that he can make the final decision, what minority have you seen?
well,
That,
the governor of South Carolina is being supposedly considered to be Secretary of State.
And
She's her parents were immigrants from India. She's a woman. Talk about an outlier. After the Charleston massacre 2 years ago, she led the fight to take down the Confederate flag from the South Carolina legislature. So,
And she vehemently opposed Trump.
She
Yeah.
did oppose. She
Right.
favored Cruz.
Yeah.
But
no,
no,
Rubio.
Rubio, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Now,
And based on the criteria, you have to be a loyalist to Trump.
Yeah.
She's going in, but she has no chance.
but at the same time,
That may well be.
there is one person who is. I think he is being selected to head EPA. I think.
who's that?
I forgot his name. He's a congressman. He's a congressman or former congressman. He's an African American, but he has views which are against everything. I forgot his name actually.
I don't remember.
But he was on TV. They were showing him that he is being touted as one of the cabinet position for one of the cabinet positions.
And if the same person, I can't remember his name either, but if the same person, he has made it known that he doesn't want to be a part of this new administration.
But I don't know that.
No, you're thinking of Gingrich, right?
No,
No.
No,
somebody
Gingrich has said,
no. He's talking about African
There is
Americans.
an
Oh,
African American
okay.
who said that he doesn't believe in all the global warming. He doesn't believe in any of that stuff. But they want him in one of those sensitive positions.
Now, I am still curious on what we expect of a new president. What do we wish a new president is able to do?
I wish that he wakes up tomorrow or sometime before January 20th and realizes where he is, the enormity of the position, and behaves accordingly.
Well, I would add to that is that the enormity of the position is such that the Trump view and his associates' view is looking inwards. But the problem with that is that we have Russia, we have North Korea, and we have Middle East, and everybody is looking towards United States. Now the problem at the moment is if you are president of United States and saying that NATO no, any alliance with Japan no, forget it. So all the other countries which are in the Middle East or anywhere, they say they will point out to that. See, this United States cannot be trusted. They have had an alliance with Europeans, the white people, for so long, and even with those they don't want to associate anymore. They are asking them to pay. So how can you? This is what ISIS is going to use this as a propaganda. Middle East people are going to do this. Pakistan are going to do this. I'm sure every other country is going to say the same thing, with a few exceptions. That how can you trust Americans now? And I worry about that, given the expansionist ideology of China, ideology of Russia. We have to be able to project the power of the United States out there. That means expenditure. That means not looking inwards only, looking outwards. And I don't know whether they have thought through that or not.
well, it's another, to take what you're saying and try to express it in a different way. If I work for a company and that pays the bills, that puts bread on the table, feeds my family, et cetera, and the president of the company says, you know what, everybody here is temporary. Nothing, you need to work harder or I'll replace you with somebody else. Now, whether he means it or not, whether he would do it or not, doesn't matter. The moment he says it, I have to start looking for my future and saying, well, I can't be sure I'm going to be here. I better look for another job. Or maybe I should stop spending all my extra time working on the job because I'm probably not going to get anything back from it. The countries that Omanan was talking about are saying, hey, if I get into a fight with China and the United States doesn't back me up, I'm in deep trouble. What I should do is talk to China and maybe make a deal with them. If we negotiate it right, maybe it won't be too bad. Well, once we've done that, once they have gone and they've made a deal with China and left us behind, you don't get it back. Trump or the next president can't say, wait a minute, that was a mistake. Let's go back to the way things work. It doesn't work that way. The world goes on, and good, bad, or indifferent, it's now a different way.
And that's what I worry about. That's once we miss that boat, no matter what we are going to try, it's going to impact future presidencies,
Right.
and the future power of the United States.
And how do you make a deal with a country that is going to last longer than Trump's likely to be president, let's say 4 years? Because Trump is basically saying any deal that Obama made, or maybe Clinton, or even W. Bush, I'm not bound by that. I didn't make that deal. I can do better. I'm going to renegotiate. Well, everybody's basing stuff on an agreement. You can abrogate the agreement whenever you want. Well, so can I. The moment it's not useful to me, well, I'll go talk to Russia. Maybe they'll listen.
I mean, already you see Philippines. Philippines. I mean, this has been a so-called protectorate of the United States for a long time. They are pivoting to China and Russia, and he says actually, I forgot the exact quote what he said. Me, Russia, and or China, and something like that.
He in China, and then later he said
something like that.
Right.
So forget United States. He is getting away from United States. So once you start that, we are. I don't know where we are going to
On the
head.
other hand, he may be just a lunatic president,
Yes.
and they may come to their senses.
What difference does it make? The moment we know we cannot rely on the Philippines and the deal we made, we start looking for another deal.
Yeah.
And now the Philippines is either by itself, which is possible, or more likely now can't make as good a deal with China because otherwise the Philippines are by themselves. So now they're sucked into something that he may or may, or the people may or may not have wanted.
Yeah.
And then how do you get out of it?
I mean, you also.
I think the Philippines are in deep trouble.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
are. They are
Yeah.
in deep trouble. But at the same,
But
He gave
other
away his bargaining chip.
Right.
the Philippines, but there are other countries too. I was speaking to one of my friends from Denmark, and they are going through the same sort of issues. They are quite concerned that we had selected Trump, and since we have, they are looking at who they should be depend on now, and what will they do.
Right.
in fact, in that case, you see, Russia supplies a lot of gas to Europe.
Right.
So they are already pivoted towards that side. And if we can't provide the support and the necessary assurances, they are going to slowly go towards that side.
Right.
And then it will be too late. And it's same thing in the Middle East. I don't know how we are going to parse this complex problem in the Middle East, where you have the Shiites hate the Sunnis, and you have the Kurds hating everybody else, and then you have the tiny country of Israel. And I don't know how we are going to manage this morass comfortably without projecting the power which is necessary.
Yeah. Well, I have high expectation of Trump. Generally, when he's sworn in January 20th, he start looking at the next 4 years, not the years that he's just got. And if he is unable to bring this nation together, where we are respecting each minority group, each poor group, different groups, if we can't respect each other, and if we can't stop putting papers out there in a negative way around different groups, then we will definitely be in trouble. And I think he will have to start working on how to bring this country back together.
I don't know that he can. He opened up Pandora's box, and all these evils came out. And it used to be that there were a lot of racists and homophobes, blah, 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 blah. And they may have believed that, but they didn't say it in polite company. Now it's okay. Schools, colleges, junior high schools are having racist graffiti out.
Yes.
And people are fighting, and we're essentially gone back to the late 60s.
Yes, yes.
And hopefully it's a minor aberration, but it's now acceptable. It used to be it wasn't acceptable. You said that you weren't a decent person. No, you can be a decent person and a bigot.
I don't think so. I don't think you can be a decent person and a bigot.
If
You know,
people are willing to
in
say
some
these
company
things.
you can, but you
Well,
know,
that's always been true. But when when the wider audience listens and doesn't turn up their nose and ignore you and turn away from you, then you can be both.
then the country is in trouble. The country has seen its peak and it's going down.
Well,
But you have to also look at the human nature. Human nature is essentially tribalism, and you can bring out that tribalism under various conditions, and that's where leadership counts. Leadership has to kind of provide a direction that some things are acceptable, other things are not. So that is where I agree with you that Trump has to provide the direction. But at the same time, it also falls on us as community to get together, and that's where I said I'm pleased that electioneering is over.
Yes.
Now, people also should get together. Yes, we differ. We also do not agree, but that doesn't mean that we have to jump at each other's throat. We are still in the same country. We have to look at the country to make it more productive, so that it succeeds no matter what. And for that, we are also responsible. But I agree with you that the president-elect has to provide a certain kind of direction, so that that tribalism, which is innate nature of people, that comes out under conditions of stress or perceived stress, because that's where also leadership counts. And you get all those devils come out. And so those have to be somehow put back in. How far he succeeds, I don't know.
Do you think he's interested in succeeding in that way? I I really don't. I don't think he's interested in succeeding to bring the country together. I think he's interested in making Trump better.
No.
And,
Yes.
well,
And whatever happens, happens. And you know, after his 4 years or 2 years, he might choose to leave, and then he'll be much better off. And much better capable of withstanding any uprising that might happen, because he is much more wealthy, you know, 2 years from now than he was today.
But I rely on Obama's statement that
He's not Obama.
No, he's not. But what I was going to say is that what I rely on Obama's statement, that is the power of the presidency. This is what Obama stated actually yesterday or today, I forgot when, that the power of the presidency, or the office of the presidency, has a way to work on your brain in such a way, I'm paraphrasing, so that provides a certain aura that should force the person to do certain things which the person would not have thought about earlier. And I'm hoping that's really going to work on the president-elect as well.
Do you think that happened with Cheney?
Well, he was not the president, but he was the president. He was vice president. Unfortunately, that did not work on him.
It didn't work on him because, you know, Bush was there, but he made all the decisions.
Yes, well, that's what I'm saying. He was not the president, but he became the engineer behind the scenes, and so
and that's why we had the biggest recession we've had since the Depression.
And we had
then when Obama
Iraq
was elected, they after the 2 years after we lost 60 people in the Senate down to 59, Mitch McConnell was able to veto everything that would have taken us out of the recession in 3 years. We should have been out of the recession in 3 years.
And I actually, you brought up an important point. I blame more. This is an interesting point I was going to bring up. I blame more on the Democratic leadership, Pelosi, for example. They should have done something at that time to really get the Democrats together, to really get out there and make sure they get a majority. They kind of, I don't know what the foot dragging was, that they started doing things which were not working for Obama.
Was it the House or the Senate?
House.
What did the House do?
Well, I don't know. But
well, the House in 2010, the Democrats lost the House in part because they could not explain Obamacare over the noise
Yeah.
generated by the Koch brothers sponsored hysterics.
Yep.
And in part, you have to be able to explain what's going on. And the problem with the website was just, see, I told you, as opposed to that's what caused it. The Koch brother groups went out and told loud people, there's going to be a death panel. They're going to decide whether you live or die.
That was a
wasn't
good.
true.
That was a
It
good
didn't-
soundbite. That was a good soundbite.
It wasn't true, but nobody was allowed to listen to that, to say you're wrong. You're absolutely wrong. This is no different than your insurance company today, what they do.
Yeah.
Because that's normal. Actually, that's what insurance companies somebody in the back room
Says we're going to cover
decides-
this or we're not going to cover
decides
this.
what you will get.
Right.
And nobody went out there into the public, into the communities.
They tried.
Well, that was too late.
Well,
that was
yeah,
late, much
but
later.
when the
Earlier
people-
they did not.
Well, I think the big mistake was that in the Senate, where they had that committee go together to try to come up with something, and they came up with something that was not acceptable, and then all the Republicans voted against it, and the Democrats voted for it, and they had enough to bring it in, but it wasn't what the Democrats wanted to begin with.
But
They should have made it the way they
Yes.
wanted it to begin with, and then it would have been much more successful.
That one I actually know a great deal more about. My brother-in-law was president of the Blue Cross of Illinois. He was part of a group that was lobbying the Congress. And they said if you go to single payer, Medicare for all or something similar, the insurance industry will be out of business in 5 years. They could not compete because of the costs. Despite the fact that government is, we all know, totally inefficient, private industry could not compete with them. So there was a compromise made. The insurance industry would back off, not stop, but back off their opposition if the insurance was done through the private thing and they used subsidies, etc. And that's how they came up with what they came up with. Because Hillary back in the 90s and Obama, when he originally came out with the idea, was thinking in terms of single payer. And the compromise was, and the Republicans went along with the compromise until it came time to vote, okay, we'll do it the insurance company's way. The insurance company said, if you want to allow people to have insurance, even though we know we're going to cost money because they got cancer, they walk in, I'm going to have an operation tomorrow, cover me today. That would raise the price of insurance dramatically. The only way that they could, and pre-existing conditions, and no cap on how much they were going to give out. So there was an unknown amount of money. The only way, excuse me, they could make this work was to say everybody has to be covered. So they forced the individual mandate. And so that's the background. If the individual mandate, you could not say everybody has to be covered. So they said, if you're not covered, then we're going to charge you a tax to provide a fund to cover the insurance companies in case costs go through the roof, which, by the way, they ended up doing. And that fund was going to subsidize the insurance company in that situation. Of course, the Republican Congress said, no, we're not going to pay that. And so the insurance companies said, well, then we got to get out. We can't afford this. And so then the Republican Congress said, see, what did I tell you? This won't work. Well, that's the background of that.
Now, what I'm interested in, now that we have a new president-elect, what do you foresee for Massachusetts? How should Massachusetts go?
Go as how?
Yes.
Are they going to secede? Is that what you're asking?
How can we succeed in having a new president that many of us did not agree on? How can we move forward and stay a place that people would like to come?
If we're allowed to continue basically the same way as we were allowed to continue in 2000, then there shouldn't be an issue.
Well, you have several major industries in Massachusetts.
Okay.
One of them is healthcare,
Yeah.
healthcare and healthcare research, and that depends on federal dollars, and that depends on all the money that goes into research. And if the research money is cut, you will see a whole bunch of problems here. But at the same time, if there are a lot of defense-related research going on, they might benefit.
Okay.
And I'm not sure whether they will fund basic research in defense, applied research in defense, and that depends on which industry. And so in that case, you have one side you have a problem, the other side may be a good thing. So
Well, keep in mind, Hanscom Field,
yes,
which is a major employer in this area, has survived as much as anything else because of the strong Democratic presence in Congress and in the government. If I were Trump, I might punish Massachusetts by sending Hanscom to
Pease Air Force
Texas.
Base, or Texas, yeah. I mean, that's a danger. That's the danger that you could shift the whole thing. We have the armory here, which in what it's not armory anymore.
Oh, that's been done a long
yes,
time
but
ago.
it is actually it's actually nutrition command now. They design.
Okay. I didn't
that
realize there was
do,
anything there.
They do research into ready to eat meals and all that, and so that can go away. So you have a problem that way.
And have you given it any thoughts to what it will be like for the elderly and their pension or their 401k under this new system?
We will be protected. No elderly would ever voluntarily give up their Social Security. Your kids, not necessarily, because there's a strong presence, Paul Ryan, who believes that the government should not be in this business and it should be private. Having gone through a situation where I had pensions and they said, we're not in the pension business, they will give you the present value of the money. I went from what was supposed to be a lifetime pension, maybe not a lot, but a lifetime pension, to a very, very specific amount for a very, very specific period of time. And that's what you would expect to see if they go to a privatization of Social Security.
Well, they're also trying to privatize Medicare, I thought.
Right, same thing.
Medicare,
They will give you
Social
vouchers.
They will give you vouchers.
Again, it puts a cap, the insurance company situation, puts a cap on what you have to spend. If you're healthy, you're ahead of the game. If you're sick, oh well.
God help you. But that same thing they're going to do to
As
Obama.
in the guy from Florida said, if you're healthy, fine. If you're sick, die early.
Is that right? Oh.
Right.
Wow. But that's the
that
same
quickly.
thing. That's the same. This voucher business again. Same thing. They are trying to do that for Obamacare. So they give you vouchers, and you that way you keep the doctor. You decide. I mean, it's kind of interesting model. But then, how do those vouchers play, and how much money, and
Well, by the way, the doctor right now is capped
yes,
on how much he can charge if he goes to Medicare, as with most insurance companies, by the way.
yeah,
Not just Medicare, but private. Under the voucher system, I have a voucher that's worth $1,000, and I go running around trying to find some doctor who will do what I need doing for $1,000.
you can.
We're done after that. You know, then it comes out of your pocket. So conceptually, what we think of as insurance goes away. And as I said, Medicare today for us, don't worry about it because there would be a revolution. All of us with our walkers would be going around. But our kids,
They
that
may-
I'm not so sure of.
Yeah, our kids don't believe that, it's going to be around. So why should they pay for it?
Absolutely.
That's
the
the
best,
idea,
and I keep
thinking.
trying to tell people, the best way to ensure that Social Security will not be around is to vote for somebody who says it won't be around.
Well, the other
Yeah, I was just going to say, the idea of taking the Social Security and privatizing it, like a
Like a 401k.
401k.
like
Yeah.
a 401k is taking all that money, billions of dollars, and
Trillions
giving
of
it to
dollars.
Wall Street
Yes.
to
Right.
manage, and of which they will get a monstrous.
They will get a percentage, as with all
Percent.
investments. And oh, by the way, after 2008, you didn't learn a thing.
No. I mean, that's what is going to happen. It's going to be another 2008, and the whole
Guaranteed
thing-
it'll happen.
yeah, that's what happens in cycles.
Right.
So it's going to basically vanish. So
Right.
we'll be all up the creek. So although we paid throughout our life, so what is going to happen? There will be nothing there.
Then you better hope that your kids
Oh,
will take care of you.
Okay.
My daughter, I'm not so sure of. She doesn't like me that much.
But at the same time, actually, the point I was going to make is Social Security does rely on people who are working now
Right.
paying in.
Yes. yes.
And whether they like it or not, that's the way the system is set up.
By the way, all pensions
Yeah,
rely on that.
rely on that. Yes.
And all insurance in general relies
Rely
on
on
that.
that.
Shared risk.
Yes.
And so it's wrong for the government to operate like a business, but we want government to operate like a business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just question: they want to do it with Social Security. What about? Are they saying they're going to do all the same thing with the government pensions?
Probably, I would think.
Well, actually,
Well, it's a private pension in the same way as General Electric, assuming that General Electric still has a pension. It's the same kind of deal.
But people who are already getting the pension, they won't be impacted, will they?
Of course they will.
Government pension possibly, because nobody likes the government anyway. Yeah, but you know,
But people on government pension, they are supposed to be, those people who are eligible, they enjoy that they have done, they have been working for the federal government for so many years,
Right.
and they get a pension.
right. Well,
They expect that.
when I worked at MIT, I was told I would have a pension,
Oh.
and I had money in there. And at some point, MIT said, "Nah,
Oh, is that
too
it?
much money,"
Uh-oh.
and so they decided they would put it in the IRA.
Oh, I
But
see.
it was an IRA at a fixed amount of money
Money.
at that point in time.
Oh, okay.
They weren't responsible. As it turned out, they were right, because I'm 72 and I'm still around,
Oh, okay.
assuming that my wife doesn't try to kill me tonight.
If she does, will she lose your pension?
Actually-
your Social Security.
Actually, she's going to have to think twice. At one point, I fell and had a concussion,
Uh-oh.
and I claimed the only reason that she called the 911 was she couldn't find the insurance papers.
So,
That's interesting.
Well, so legislatively, actually, I was just reading that Trump said that January, whatever date it was, I can't remember the date that the inauguration is.
20.
20.
Yeah.
Okay,
Usually
he's
20.
going to get rid of all the criminal illegals that
Yes.
have been allowed, the gang members, etc. And it occurred to me, how does he know who they are? And don't they need a trial? Isn't there
No.
isn't there a due process or something like that?
No.
It's
Or
enough-
I can just grab somebody off
Yeah.
the street
Yes.
and
Declare
send
them
them out?
illegal and declare them illegal and declare them rapists and whatever and throw them out.
Um,
Oh, good.
Isn't that what happened with the companies that were raided and people sent out? They were
In
criminals,
Fall,
but-
Fall River,
Well,
actually. Fall River, there was some.
Yeah.
Okay.
It
I don't know
was
that
a couple of
specific
years
case.
ago. that had happened.
I
Fall
know-
River or Bedford, New Bedford, I forgot where.
Fall River.
Yeah, Fall River.
So they went in because I know Obama was pushing this as a initiative. Found a company that was hiring the illegals, and I know the company would have been fined. Were the illegals deported or?
Yeah.
Yeah, they were deported.
Oh, okay.
There is an interesting side piece here. During one of the debates, Trump acknowledged that Obama has deported more illegal aliens than anybody else during this year. And I thought that was an interesting factoid there. But he didn't give a number, but he said he has deported more illegal aliens. So that means Obama is doing something right, according to Trump.
No, he's doing something wrong. It just happens to be working out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And
By the way, the total number of aliens in the country, legal and illegal, hasn't changed in 20 years.
No, it's
No.
gone down.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
has gone
It's
down.
gone
It's
down.
gone down.
And the mixture
But-
has changed. It's no longer Mexicans. There's actually a negative immigration of Mexican nationals.
yeah, so there's Mexican,
but there are-
Haitians.
yeah.
But the Central Americans
Central
are
Americans.
replacing them. Them and Europeans and Asians, and but the ones that he's going to deal with are the Mexicans who are already leaving
But they,
because NAFTA is working and it's a better deal to stay at home in Mexico than come up here and deal with these gringos.
Now, isn't Trump's wife immigrant?
Yes.
she's
Yeah.
From Russia, or one of the Russian states.
Slove-
Slovenia.
Slovenia.
I think.
But Ivanka also is an immigrant. Not Ivanka.
The first one.
Ivana. Ivana?
Yeah.
Ivana Trump. She was from
I don't
Czech
know.
Republic, I think. That's what somebody from Czechoslovakia. Somebody said she would be a good ambassador. So that's a good thing there.
Is she the one that hates Trump?
Yes, she's the mother of Ivanka.
Okay, but
And Eric,
but
I think.
that
Are-
woman is the one who hates Trump, and
Yes.
so Trump will send her to Czechoslovakia, get her out of the
Get-
way,
get her out.
give her a job.
Yes.
Well, you don't have to accept a job as diplomat.
Well, you can. Well, that's interesting. You could be nominated, and that's that.
That would be interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, Trump has had many calls with people from other countries, other heads of state, and et cetera, et cetera. Hasn't actually talked to anybody in the State Department yet
Oh, oh, really? Okay.
That's only
to
because
get information on what he should be saying and what he shouldn't be saying.
Well, I don't think he wants that information because he's going to set up his own relationships.
With Putin, by the way.
Putin.
Well, Putin.
and
I think he has talked to Putin already,
Yeah.
right? And so he thinks that. I mean, I'm hoping that's what Bush said. I could see his soul. Is that what he said? No, something like that. When he looked into
Yeah, he could look
Putin's
into
eye-
his eyes.
He looked into
He's a
his
good
eyes.
man.
He's a good man. He looked into his eyes and he was a good man. He looked in his soul or something like that. He
Yeah.
said, when he looked in his eyes. So I'm hoping Trump will have a better eyesight, a better better awareness of what Putin is.
The guy that wrote the book on making a deal or something like that, as he was trying to get information from Trump, he said he's got his attention span is less than a kindergartner.
Oh, he's on it. Okay.
Oh, okay.
That should give us a lot of.
Well, at least he'll make fast decisions.
Yes.
But that's an interesting point. Actually, he will make fast decisions. Yeah. So that's what you need.
Well,
Under certain circumstances.
when I play bridge, very often I will walk up to a table and I'll tell people, don't worry that we're running late.
Oh, I
we
see.
lose quickly.
Oh. Well, we lose quickly. Okay.
Yeah. The other thing is when he takes a long time to play a card, I always shudder. The more he thinks, the worse we play.
Well, that's what people have complained about Obama, that
What's
he
that?
takes a long time,
Right.
and then he makes mistakes. Look what happened in Syria. Look what happened in Iraq. It's all Obama's problem because he took so long to make decisions. Syria would have been all clean, it would have not turned into this mess. But he took so long, and he finally made a red line, and then he reneged. But of course, they forget that although he made the red line, he did not fire a shot, but he did negotiate a deal to get all the chemical weapons out.
Right.
So that people forget that part.
But
But
Obama,
you want to have blood on the ground to prove that you did
Okay.
it right. That's what's wrong with Iran.
Okay.
It's working. Even Israel is saying the Iranian deal is working, but there was no blood in the ground. So therefore, it couldn't have been any good.
and he didn't want to start a war by
Yes.
sending
Right.
additional.
I mean that's actually
know.
that's a laudable thing that he did not want to start a new war.
Yeah.
People in this country, at least an awful lot of them, are really sick and tired of war.
Yes.
They
Yes.
Right. It'll be interesting to see, since the problem in Syria and Iraq is you need a strong, disciplined army to come in and take over and police it for a number of years afterwards. And America's not willing to do it, and Europe's not willing to do it. Excuse me. If Trump says, okay, we're going to go in, then what happens? What happened to George W. happened to him. Everybody's waving the flag and we're real happy, and then 5 years later with the body bags, we're less happy. And oh, by the way, things will get worse because ISIS is saying, this is the Crusaders. This is the Europeans coming in and they're going to take over just like they tried to do 1,000 years ago.
I mean that is the momentum. That's the mentality the ISIS people are advocating. These are the Crusaders and coming to get us, and that's we can't tolerate that.
Right.
And unfortunately, the American citizens who have become ISIS supporters and make YouTube commercials, they say the same thing, which is sad.
Well, I think they spout the company line. I don't
Yeah.
think they would be talking about Crusaders when they're broadcasting back here, because Crusaders doesn't have the same emotional meaning.
But it makes me a little bit frightened because as persons with grandchildren, you don't want to see them end up in war,
Right.
you know, for something that they had no say in. You know?
That's again where I'm hoping that Obama's prediction comes true, that the office of the presidency changes the personality in such a way that the decisions are not made in a second. Decisions are made after quite good deliberation.
But at
That's
the
what I'm
same
hoping.
time, you were saying Obama spent a lot of time and he still made mistakes. There isn't a clean decision.
there's no clean.
As Paul likes to say, if you have a simple solution to a complicated problem, you don't understand the problem.
I mean, world problems are complicated. You
Yeah.
cannot have a clean cut decision and clean cut separation. You have to kind of give and take and compromise. That's what world is about, and that's what going back to India, for example, when Britishers left, they made what was advocated as two-nation theory based on Islam. This Muslims will get their own country, and rest of India will stay by themselves. But what happened afterward? In 1971, the two-nation theory fell apart when Bangladesh was born. And although they are all Muslims, that they hated each other, and so Bangladesh was born out of that. So you can see that how clean-cut things don't work, although people on top think that way sometimes. And in practice, you have to really think through how do the people really work? How do people actually trade, work together, compromise, and live?
All right. Well, just because I'm curious, 70 years later, they tried it with the clean cut. Okay, you go here, you stay here, everybody's happy. What should they have done?
Well, that is now thinking backwards is impossible. But at that time, if I were there, if I were going to fly back, I would have thought and try to talk the person who was the major advocate of the two-nation theory, try to get him think through. And he was a lawyer who went to school in England, but the only thing in his head was Muslims should have their own country. Although he was married interracially, interreligiously, he was married to non-Muslim. He drank like a fish. He didn't speak the language, but yet he had that thing because he wore nice suits. Britishers liked him. Britishers could talk to him, and he would not listen to anybody else.
So there was East and West Pakistan,
Yes.
and then East Pakistan became Bangladesh.
Bangladesh.
So was it one country but separated by India?
Yeah, yes. I mean, how bizarre can you get? You have separated by one continent essentially, and you have but West Pakistan people hated Bangladesh people because they thought West Pakistan people were the superior race, quote unquote.
Oh,
And
okay, so a different tribe.
yeah, different tribe. And Bangladesh, well, no, they have their own language, so they were trying to impose Urdu on them. While Bangladesh were proud, they said Bengali is the best language we have. Although we are Muslims, we can't give it up. But West Pakistan people, they said, no, you can't do that, anything. Whatever we say goes. They revolted.
Yeah.
By the way, if you look at Palestine, Gaza Strip versus the West Bank, if you're not contiguous, it makes it very hard to govern.
And different ideologies show up. Again, West Bank versus Gaza, the ideologies diametrically opposite each other. They can't reconcile it. I don't know who is going to be able to make them become peaceful to each other.
They're going to be separate countries,
Yeah.
or they're going to get absorbed by somebody. I don't know who would be stupid enough to absorb the the Gaza Strip.
Gaza
but
Strip.
We'll let Trump figure it out.
I mean, you cannot do that by brute force. It's impossible.
well, you
Because-
can do it by brute force.
No, but even then, it's after some time, it's going to be the same problem. They're going to just like the last when was it, a few years ago, where Hezbollah people went and started Hamas people went
Right.
and started killing everybody.
Yeah. They were justified in their own head. By the way, doing it by brute force does work. Look at West Germany.
Well,
Look at Italy.
well, what do you mean by West Germany?
We went in and we denazified and we said, this is the way you're going to run your country. And after a fair amount of time, with the threat that if you don't do it this way, then you're going to be part of East Germany and the Soviet Empire, and they said, better do it this way.
But that is a point you have to agree that the threat was mostly communism. That's why they agreed to this. Otherwise, there was no incentive.
But that's how Nazism got in
Yes.
power in the first place.
Yes,
the
but
alternative was not, communism, and they didn't want that.
Yes, but in Middle East, you don't have that threat.
Yeah, you do.
You could create one.
Yeah, you do. You have Shia versus Sunni.
Well, they're always that. That's always the case.
But that's part of how you could.
but within
If you
West
took-
Bank and Gaza, I don't know what the threat you are going to produce. You could say, well, Israel is going to gobble you up or something. I don't know what you're going to produce.
Except that Israel spit it
Yes.
out.
But-
Things were better at one point, more peaceful, better.
But
clear.
but that's what I don't know what threat you are going to give to.
I don't know, but
Either-
you almost
either
have to do that. It is easier, and this was our question. You were talking about tribalism. It's easier to agree that you and I hate
Yes.
this guy
Yes.
than it is for us to say what we like.
Yes. I mean, if you can produce that threat, yes. But look what happened to West Germany eventually. East and West, when the threat was gone.
Well, yeah, but by
but-
that time, West Germany said we can convert.
We can
East
convert, yes.
Germany.
Yes.
And the East Germans thought, this is wonderful, the streets are paved with gold
Yes,
over
of
there.
course.